Good morning and welcome to Peace Out, where we are all learning together to peace out. And I know there are many opportunities every single day to just sit back and trust God and peace all the way out, right? And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard, and it's all part of the process. We just have to learn how to do that over and over and over. Just keep trusting God. That's what it all comes down to, is how much do we trust Him? Just going to keep trusting Him, right? Just keep trusting Him. So we're talking about planting seeds of peace. Because that's where we reap a harvest of righteousness, according to James 3:18. That's what we talked about last week. So the person I chose today is somebody that I kind of want to say, they didn't have to sow seeds of peace. Somebody else should have been sowing seeds of peace to them. Right? And so, because this is a very familiar story, but it's kind of like, I think this is backwards, but whoever plants the seed reaps the harvest, right? So the other people in this story didn't plant seeds of peace. They actually kind of planted seeds of discord and doubt and judgment, and they got that back. But they also reaped the benefit of the person who planted the seeds of peace. Let's talk about it. Talking about Job here. Job, we know the story of Job. And, when I was sick in 1986, 96, 87, 86, 87, somewhere in there. I don't know. I have kind of a gap in my memory there. But, when I got better, I read Job because I understood a degree of the illness and not being able to function, that just loss of your health for a period of time where I was just so sick. And, I wrote a little book. It's only available on Kindle, or I can send you the PDF or the ebook. The Year Orange Juice Saved My Life. And it's about that year that I was so really sick. And so we know Job went through this. We know that first off, he lost everything. That was enough. But he went straight to his knees in worship. Mourning and worship, they do go together. Sometimes the sweetest worship comes from the deepest, darkest places of our lives. Because when we get put in that crucible of life, what comes out? For Job, it was worship. He was like, God gave, God took away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That is not what I've said in some of my struggles. I'll be honest, right? And then on top of all that, he gets ill after he's lost everything, all of his wealth, all of his influence, all of his money, all of his kids. He's lost everything except his wife, who we have to remember, she lost everything too. We don't want to forget that, right? But so he's lost all this, and then he gets deathly ill. He's so sick that his friends come to see about him, and they don't even recognize that it's him. That's how disfigured he was with boils and sickness, and who knows what this sickness was, right? But other than just flat out horrible is what it was, right? And they began to say, well, now, if you were right with God, if you honored God, if God's really, what did you do to make God so mad? They began to just heap condemnation on him and judgment. They're trying to judge him. And he's like, I didn't do anything. This is just what's happened in life. And they weren't buying it. And they had some pretty good arguments until God said, hey, y'all be quiet. And let me talk to you now. Y'all are so smart. Y'all answer my questions, right? And so in the last chapter of Job, they come together, and after the Lord spoke to Job, it says, he said, I'm angry with you and your friends. That's what God told Job's friends, because they were condemning Job and had no right to do that. And then it says, in verse 10, it says, when Job prayed for his friends, and let me stop right there. It is so important to pray for those who persecute us. It is, and not to pray that they get sick, and not to pray that they die, and not to pray that they lose their job, but to pray God's blessings on them. If they're not in the place to receive those blessings, they won't get them. But it's a matter of our heart to pray God's blessings on them. God, save them. Let them know that you died for them too. Let them know that you love them, right? I pray God's richest blessings on this person, because obviously they're missing something if they're acting a fool like this, right? And so it's good to pray for those. We look at his friends and go, why are you praying for them? They just let them rot. They were hateful. They were mean. They were judgmental. Lots of judging going on here, right? Condemnation, pointing the finger, telling Job how bad he had to have been, or this wouldn't have happened to him. Have you ever had that told to you? I have several times. right? If I had it all together, and then mentally, when you're in that situation where you're down under, whether it's a sickness or a financial thing or something like Chris having a wreck or things like that, you begin to, if you're not careful, you were indirectly taught to turn that on yourself and go, why don't I have any faith? Why don't I have this? Why can't I believe God? What did I do wrong to let this happen? And it doesn't have anything to do with any of that. It's just life sometimes. It's just the process. It's just those decisions. What happened to Chris? Well, he was riding in a car and his friend pulled out in front of a truck. God did not cause it, right? I don't even know that the devil caused it, but that's what happens in life. And we have to just accept those things and know that God is in them with us. Our faith doesn't prevent bad things from happening. He said Job was upright, and yet bad things happened. It had it said he was really wrong and he was bad, so God let all these things happen. No, he was upright before God. He was a righteous man, and bad things happened. They did not happen because he did something wrong. They happened because of life. Right? They happened because the enemy was attacking Job, because he was, oh yeah, sure. Well, you're protecting Job, so of course he's going to serve you. Right? And so these things did happen. And so we don't always have a reason for it, but it doesn't mean we did anything wrong. We've used the analogy so many times. Moses is at the brink of the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army pressing him behind because he followed everything God said. So we can follow everything God said, and things can still be bad. Things can still be rough. Things can still be wrong. We can still get sick. We can still lose money. All these things that we can package up, that we can't measure the grace of God by our circumstances. We can't measure the blessing of God by what we can tangibly prove, right? Whether that's a home or a car. Those aren't signs that God blessed you. What's in your heart is that peace. That peace in your heart is a sign that God blessed you. And so you can pray that onto someone else who doesn't have it. That's what Job's doing. It says when Job prayed for his friends, even though, in my opinion, they didn't deserve it because they was messy, right? When Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes. Did God touch Job's friends? Yeah, he did. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. But Job planted that seed of peace, and he was restored. His health came back. His fortunes came back. He was blessed in every area of his life. In fact, and then after that it says, in fact, the Lord gave him twice as much as before. He had children again. He didn't get his other children back, of course, but he had more children. He had wealth, came back to his home. He was probably very frugal and wise in the way he handled money and managed wealth and things like that. But it says when he prayed for his friends, that's the seed of peace. That's the seed, right? When he prayed for his friends, God restored him. So when he planted those seeds of peace, and then this story is through prayer. It's just something it didn't cost him any money. It didn't even cost him much time, probably. He didn't have to think about it a lot. It wasn't strenuous physically. He didn't get up and do something physically. He just bowed his head and said, God, touch my friends. Bless my friends. Even though they were wrong, I would want to start with all that. Okay, God, they were all wrong first off, and then can you bless them anyway? Bless them anyway. But when he had the heart of humility to pray for those who had sat there and accused him and blasted him with words through the whole book of Job, telling him how worthless he was, how unrighteous he was, how mad God was at him, and how he needed to fix everything so that God would be with him again, and all these things, he prayed for them. What a beautiful seed of peace he planted, and he reaped that back. He not only got peace, he already had peace. He not only got peace, but he got everything restored to him, his health, his wealth. His wife was not in grieving anymore, and then they had more children, and he had his life back. So he reaped a beautiful harvest when he planted those seeds of peace. So I encourage you today to plant those seeds of peace. Is something really nagging at you today? Pray about it. And don't pray, God, wipe them out. That's how I pray sometimes. God, can you fix this? Right? Pray God's blessing. God, show them how much you love them. Show them the gift of righteousness. Show them the gift of peace. Let them know that your mercies are new for them today too. Let them know that your grace is enough for whatever they're going through. It will change our perspective of them when we pray for them. And it changes our heart towards God, that humility, and it changes our heart toward them. because we begin to see them through God's eyes and not our own pain, not our own frustration, not our own situations. And then we can bless them, and we reap the benefit. They do too. They reap the benefit, and we reap the benefit because we planted those seeds of peace, even in difficult circumstances. So go today. Planting seeds of peace today, we see, is just as easy, just as simple as praying for someone else. When you're in your own pain, and you're in your own struggle, pray for somebody else, because you reap the benefit of that. Don't pray just because you're going to reap the benefit, but pray for them. Pray earnestly for them, and you will reap the benefit. It doesn't mean everything will turn around on a dime. It doesn't mean everything will change in a minute. It doesn't mean your bank account will not be negative anymore. It doesn't mean your friends will like you anymore. You don't know how God will restore you, but when you plant those seeds of peace by praying for someone else, you will reap a harvest, because you're planting peace. You're saying, I'm not going to take these negative words. I'm not going to take these negative thoughts. I'm not going to take their condemnation or their judgment. I'm going to take them instead to the Father and let him deal with them. And I'm just going to say, God, bless them with your peace. Bless them with your wisdom. Bless them with abundance of grace and mercy so they can face their day today too. And when we do that, we'll find that we have peace too. And that's why we can peace out. Peace out. Have a great day, you guys. Go plant some seeds of peace somewhere today, and I'll see you again tomorrow.